So, in the new year, I was sparked with the inevitable feeling that I could do anything and every art project is just at the tip of my fingers, and all I need to do is grab a paintbrush and just like let it fall onto the canvas. And I have this idea to do something inspired by Cupid and Psyche, and I'm also listening to an audiobook, a sapphic audiobook inspired by the story of Cupid and Psyche as well. And I know from different perspectives it's been told to be a queer story, so it felt perfect for me, especially with the huge wings, and that's something that I really wanted to capture. The only issue is that no one really tells you or prepares you for the absolute insanity that comes with planning a passion project. And with my comic, I had it slightly. The only thing is that I knew it would take me a couple years, so I gave myself that grace. God damn. Like, this drawing, which I thought was eventually going to be a painting, so I only sketched it out to get a thumbnail and the idea of what I wanted for my final piece, ended up killing me slowly, if we're being very honest. Like, it took me through psychosis, it dragged me through the mud, it punched me in the face, and it's been a journey. And it's only since I was able to relinquish all of my control and decided that I don't need an outcome and I don't need perfection that I'm able to even speak to you about this project right now. So here you can see me sketching out different pose ideas for the characters. And yeah, this is step one of me spiraling. This should have been simple, this should have been quick, but I raced through 100 different pose varieties, and it's like individually they're cool, but compositionally they weren't doing it for me for some reason, and I ended up settling on the actual pose inspired by the iconic Cupid and Psyche statue. So I'm like, okay, cool, I've got that out the way. But now we move on to composition. And this is where things go ever so downhill. So I am used to being a character designer or just kind of making very quick and simple illustrations. However, I'm slowly realizing that I want to get into visual development, which means that I have to think about composition. So I was like, challenge accepted, you know? But no, the challenge accepted me, and I was imagining this beautiful nature landscape with trees and my favorite flowers, like a meadow and some water, of course, and wisteria, and it was going to be beautiful, it was going to be amazing. It was like a cottagecore black sapphic dream, which it is. But yeah, I was just doing a lot, and I think something that I struggle with is how to approach an entire scene and background and work that into composition whilst thinking about tone, which is why I started in black and white. I landed on this kind of landscape, and there's one idea where it had a log in the background and the other where it didn't. And again, decision paralysis. Why is it so hard? They both have their perks, so I want them both, but I can't have them both, you know? So I'm like on Pinterest, panicking, looking at ideas for color, and how do you draw grass and water and
plants, like, and they're like abstract, so that how do I do that effectively? But then also, how do I
so now we're onto color, and I'm like, what are we doing here? I don't even know what was happening here. Like, it started off really bright and colorful, but it really didn't feel amoriac to me. It felt like I was just creating and painting a scene for the sake of it. Except I did capture that kind of cottagecore vibe, but I was like, okay, cool. Now that I have that down, it also kind of helped me understand lighting a little bit better. So I moved on to a more dusk kind of scene with the sun setting, and now we have some vibes, and I was feeling more comfortable with this one, but something just wasn't sticking. And remember, like, these are thumbnails, it's not detailed. It was a preliminary drawing, so there was no reason for me to be putting all of this crazy energy into it. But I just kept latching onto this idea of like the possibilities, and then we moved on to, like, I don't know, it wasn't intentional, but it seems like the day is moving on, and they were talking all night, and it's darker now, and the scene feels very amoriac, very purple. But you know, my head was spinning at this point. It was like, what are we doing here? Why are we, like, why, you know? And then I gave it a break, and I completely flipped out and came up with an entirely new composition. And at this point, I was just cutting and snipping bits from Pinterest, and my head hurts even just looking and thinking about them. Not that they're ugly, and they definitely all have potential. It's just that, like, I don't even know where to go from here. And it was at this point that I realized I need to stop. What I've gathered from this project is that it's so easy to get overwhelmed and consumed with the idea of chasing this perfect vision and just wanting to get it down on paper. But there's a point where you gotta step back and think, is this amazing vision ready to be tangible yet? Maybe you don't have the inspiration yet, maybe you don't have the skill set yet, and it can be quite disheartening to feel, but it's okay to be behind. I also get caught up in using reference images on Pinterest to kind of fill in the gaps for me that my brain won't let me do myself. And I found myself literally puzzle piecing together aspects of the art that I found that kind of looks like what I'm going for, and trying to, like, cut and stick it to my image to make something. And I realized that essentially I'm just kind of being like AI. And yes, as humans, as creatives, it's natural for us to be influenced by what we see. Everything that we see and hear in our daily lives makes some kind of contribution to the art that we produce. But relying too heavy on the references, especially if it's the work of other people, rather than trusting my heart and just seeing where the piece takes me, I find that the latter gets me the work that I'm super proud of and I'm happy with, and it doesn't fill me with so much rage and confusion and hysteria trying to feign authenticity from an inauthentic source. I'm not really sure if that makes sense, but this really took me on a journey, and I feel like I've come out the other end of it a different person in a way, or with a different understanding of how I want to move forward with creating things. Even though these pieces, they're still beautiful, when I first finished them, I could barely look at them. They didn't do anything for me because I was so angry that I didn't get that one result that was kind of at the back of my mind. But my mind is probably keeping it there for a reason. But I think I'm okay with not knowing and leaving it as it is. So I'm leaving you with these. Let me know which ones you liked. If you feel like they're done, if you've ever experienced something similar. I've had a really stressful week, so this was kind of calming to kind of just vent and talk to you guys. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I will catch you in a fortnight. Bye.